Yes, good morning, everybody. This is Varun Goenka. This is a session that I did with the JBCN International School at Mumbai, where my kids are studying. And based on the response, I thought I'll re-record this session, uh, and it could be of use to similar young learners or the same age group as my kids. These were all grade six, grade seven learners. Yes, so hope it has a mix of some messages and videos around the areas of finance that I could simplify for these learners. Um, this is a brief introduction about myself as the school required and my humble story from challenges to possibilities. I was average in academia, but reading and reading a lot around business and investing gave me an edge that I understand now. My biggest inheritance was my unbridled optimism that I received from my parents, and obviously the value system that I carry today and hope to also share with my kids. I studied 4 years at St. Paul's, Darjeeling, boarding. It taught me complete self reliance, a lot of endurance, understand life beyond mere books, get all round exposure beyond academia. Landed in Mumbai in 2010 after trying for 3 years. Uh, I didn't know anybody here, but fortunately, I got an opportunity and I'd taken a studio apartment here, which was my first, you could say, rental home on my own. In 2011, 2010 end, I found the love of my life, and which trusted my ambitions and me in total and became my lady luck that we all need. I always was positive, as I said, and believed in the infinite potential. And I valued learning from the smartest minds always over anything else. I think Mumbai stands for people who come from all walks of life, different parts of the country, uh, but are really, really willing to put in the hard work needed. For at least 15 odd years or so, I adhered to 996, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. I enjoyed my work, so that made 996 easy. I selected my place and my peers based on the hard work, hunger to learn, positive energy, character of modesty, and not based on their privileges, which again is a character of Mumbai. Uh, I worked at three of the one of the best institutions in the country, uh, namely Reliance Mutual Fund, now became Nippon India Mutual Fund, and the last one being Value Quest Investment Advisors under Ravi Dharamshi. So, and these institutions have attracted the smartest and the most hardworking in the finance profession, which helped me grow as an individual. I initiated and executed some of the largest investments research, which benefited the entire ecosystem and myself. From knowing no one to, I would like to believe, becoming part of some of the smartest group of investors and professionals in India. And for that, I'm blessed. I became wealthy from not having anything, which empowered the entire family. It can have generational impact, but I think I still have to work hard another 15, 20 years to earn my place in this industry. So that's my humble beginning. I'm going to share a video which is very close to my heart. Uh, the basic message being we are in the right country, in the right decade, in the right time. We have the right set of opportunities and the right set of people around us to learn from. And this is called the ovarian lottery, as Warren Buffett calls it. Let me share the video. The genesis is that we are truly a blessed generation to be born in this great country, and we have all the opportunities around. What happened to maybe US in the 80s, Korea in the 70s, and Japan maybe in the 60s, the whole renaissance of development progress may happen to India in the next 20 years, is what my belief is. So, you as young learners are truly lucky. Let me move ahead. Uh, it is always said that it's attitude, not as much as aptitude, that will decide your altitude. So the next part is about a few behavioral areas. And I would say finance is more about behavior than about mathematics or complex calculations, for which I have a short video. Uh, it's about purpose, and that's the story that I'm going to share ahead.
ये कोई होटल नहीं है।
Hey, listen, गुरुजी, मैं यहाँ अपनी मर्जी से नहीं आया था, ओके? फिर भी सीखनी हो तो यार, ऊपर आपको सिखाते ही नहीं।
सिखाऊंगा भी नहीं।
सीखना भी नहीं आपका ये अटर पटर। मार्शल आर्ट है शाओलिन वालों की, ठीक है? चाइनीज, वर्ल्ड फेमस। वहां जाके सीख लूंगा।
रुको और सुनो। 1542 में भारत से बौद्ध धर्म चाइना गए थे। उन्होंने ही तुम्हारे शाओलिन टेम्पल की स्थापना की। उन्होंने वहां के मॉन्क्स को 18 हैंड्स ऑफ बुद्धा टेक्निक सिखाई, जो कि हमारी कलरी के अदब्बुकल का एक हिस्सा है और हजारों वर्षों से वदक्कन स्टाइल ऑफ कलरी पाइट्टू में प्रैक्टिस किया जाता है। लेकिन तुम नहीं समझोगे। उतर गई? जंगल में सुबह जब हिरन जागता है तो सोचता है, आज अगर मैं जी जान से नहीं भागा तो मारा जाऊंगा। उसी सुबह एक शेर जागता है और सोचता है, आज अगर जी जान से नहीं भागा तो मैं भूखा मर जाऊंगा। शेर हो या हिरन, भागना तो पड़ेगा। एक बागी और एक सिपाही में ज्यादा फर्क नहीं होता है। बस ये उनके मकसद हैं, जो एक को बागी बनाता है और दूसरे को सिपाही। बागी बनो, बी अ रिबेल, और किसी मकसद के लिए।
So as students, when we're growing up, we have a lot of questions. We have a lot of disagreements and creative differences. But like the message is that there needs to be the right purpose, channelization of energy that we all have of our curiosity. The only wish and hope is because we as parents, or even if we want to become reasonably good human beings and citizens, that energy is channelized to better places, maybe not video games, or maybe not just having fun, but also because the pursuit of learning is the most satisfying journey, as you all will discover as students over time. So the mindset, the attitude is what defines. And I'm not going to read. I think you all as students understand what the difference between fixed and growth mindset is. The only thing that I'm trying to draw your attention to is that your brain is like a muscle. It grows when you say, I can't do this yet, instead of I can't do this. So add a positive annexure to that. I'm learning, and I can't do this yet. Uh, the whole success toolkit for us as learners of any age, finance is one part of it, and a very important part of it, which connects all the toolkits together. But what are the toolkits that we really are learning at school and even beyond school sometimes? One is science. It's important to understand how the world works from the stars to the cells. Language, because you need expression to convey and language can give you wings. Mathematics, it's the secret code behind practically everything. One has to understand the basics and the key building blocks around mathematics. Technology is today driving the world, and I think most of you as students are quite technology savvy. This generation is born with technology weaved into their lifestyle. History, if you don't learn from the past, you are not going to understand the future as well. So it's important to learn our history. Health and mind, of course, without that, you cannot do anything. And finance, as we'll discover ahead, is what connects all your dots to maybe give shape to your dreams, make it a reality. Why is finance the GPS of life? It's because it's about smart decisions about your resources and opportunities. It's about planning for your dreams like college, travel, starting a business, where to spend, where to save. Uh, it helps you understand how to operate your little earnings, hard earned earnings, or even of your parents, and also maybe understand your teachers and the school event budget. So everything requires finance. So if you're a YouTuber, even then you need finance to understand ads and equipment costs and maybe uh, time management. If you're a scientist, you need to understand finance from the perspective of grants and research budgets. If you're an art, you still need finance because you need to understand uh, what is the value that it can maybe fetch. Uh, so a small story. This is an old story, but with a slightly new modern twist. The classic tale of the ant and the grasshopper. The grasshopper sings and plays all day while the ant works hard storing for food for winter. We all know this. And the winter comes, the ant is warm, safe, and well fed, whereas the grasshopper is suffering. The moral was plan ahead for difficult times. Now, just on the right is a modern version of it, that life has summers, which is good times, and winters, which is hard times. You need to build emergency fund during good times, which can help you during bad times. When unexpected problems come, you're a little more cushioned, more ready. So basically, Ant was the world's first financial planner. Uh, the moral remains the same. Don't just spend away your present, also build for the future. This book called Atomic Habits, I think, is one of the must reads here. Uh, the basic premise, the basic learning of this book is you may not focus on big learnings or big achievements, if at all. Sometimes you may want to break down into everyday incremental improvements. So even if you improve 1% a day, 1% a week, it will accumulate into something much more remarkable and which you may not realize. So if you're reading maybe 10 minutes a day, maybe you can add another 10 minutes. If you're saving $1 a week, maybe make it $2 a week. If you're doing exercise for 45 minutes, can you make it 1 hour? And are you learning something new every day? And on the top, there is an example which is mentioned in the book about this British cycling team, which focused on these small improvements, improvements in everything, in every person. And the collective result was that the team, from losing everything before 2003, became world champions and consistently won through these changes. Um, Again, a short video because this session is about young learners, so I thought videos will probably convey a more effective message. This story is about a horse called Seabiscuit. It's a legendary movie about how a broken horse, a tragedy with an entrepreneur, a failed trainer, and a struggling jockey came together to create a legend which probably stands even today. So as you're seeing, Seabiscuit, the horse, is falling significantly behind.
Come on, boy. Come on. Come on. Ah! Come on! Ah!
There is a friend who slows his horse down to come and encourage
That's all right?
Seabiscuit and his jockey.
There you go, boy. There it is. Have a nice ride, Johnny. Come on, Pops. Ah! Ah! Go on with it, Johnny. Go on. Woo! Yeah. Come on, Lord! There it is, boy. Run, Biscuit!
You know, everybody thinks we found this broken down horse and fixed him. But we didn't. He fixed us. Every one of us. And I guess in a way, we kind of fixed each other too.
So, of course, life is not going to be perfect, but you don't need a perfect life to make it into a good life. You will need friends, and a lot of things will connect and come together in ways that you can't imagine, and still you can win. So, the next session is about a small case study which will give you the basic around finance. A book called Lemonade War, which has a lot of first principles of business, which you can do even at your age. So, this book is about selling lemonade. Now, selling lemonade may look easy, but it's anything but that. What do we have to assess? One is supply and demand. When do you sell lemonade? During the day or in the evening? When will you find the most amount of customers? How do you price the lemonade? And it can't be too low, it can't be too high. So, what is the optimal price at which you can make maybe maximum profits? How do you advertise and present your product will make a lot of difference if there is more than one lemonade seller. Location is going to be very important. So even within your school premises, there are so many locations, on the turf, at the reception, maybe outside, when people get down from their buses or the cars, uh, or somewhere near the food area. So location is going to be very important, and all these things come together in the way of how much lemonade you sell at what price, which creates revenue, and whatever is your cost, and that will yield your profit. So business can be learned at any age, and the simple lemonade story will teach you a lot about business and how to think. There's no right and wrong answer, but more about creative thinking. And there could be more number of lemonade sellers, but even if you look at, let's say, mere two of them with different approaches to selling their lemonade, you will find that there are various ways to reach success or optimal results. One can be more charming and friendly way of selling, the other could be more data driven selling. But the bottom line is that competition will push you to be more creative, work harder. Sometimes cooperation is better than competition. And business skills, uh, nothing can capture, the books can't capture in entirety. A lot of real world skill can only be learned by practicing. And the best example is swimming. You can't read about swimming and learn. So business is just like that. A very important book called How to Get Lucky by Max Gunther. Very important for finance. That's why I'm mentioning it here. We've all heard the word lucky, but do you know luck can be manufactured in some way? So, what is luck? Luck follows people who move, connect, and stay curious. One can create your own lucky network, which can surprise you in ways that you can't imagine. Luck needs preparation and courage, which leads you to opportunities which make you lucky. So essentially, luck has a formula, which is action, connections, curiosity, which lead to lucky opportunities. So create your luck by giving up laziness, by choosing to be at the right place at the right time. And I'll give you again a very simple example. Some of you might choose to play video game during your weekends at home, or some of you might want to accompany maybe your parents, maybe your friends to an exhibition or to some outdoor activity where you will learn much more, discover more, maybe make new relationships, find new equations with your friends rather than being just a single loner on your screen. This is an oversimplified example, but in some way, people who created the likes of Google or Apple or any other company, they became lucky, they became successful, is because they had the building blocks of luck. One, they were capable, they gave life chance, they worked hard, but they also chose a path which, if you take and you walk on it for maybe a few years, you can get lucky. Uh, Another book, a story, is about what I wish I knew when I was 20. So, challenges make you creative, they force you to think differently. So, don't wait for permission. Start small, take action today. People who take the initiative and do things rather than being told to do things or wait for things to happen to them, life treats them differently and they see a very different lever of life. Failing, don't worry about it. Every mistake just teaches you something. On the contrary, failing will become a huge asset and great experience over time, as you will discover the positive side of failing. So your imagination is unlimited. And a small case study in this book was that how a bunch of students were given 2 hours and $5, and they were judged on who can do what towards making the most out of turning that $5 into what. Some of them created maps to find parking spots to sell, and some of them created reservations, a way to do reservations at popular restaurants. And that turned $5 into almost $650. So, and there are many other ways, but this is one way of another a finance case study. A video to show that learning finance, numbers, science is all around us.
अगर शोएब अख्तर 143 किलोमीटर पर आवर के स्पीड पर बॉल फेंके और बाउंड्री 63 मीटर दूर है, तो सचिन तेंदुलकर को कितने फोर्स से बल्ले को घुमाना पड़ेगा ताकि छक्का लगे? हैं? सोचो सोचो सोचो। अगर ट्रेन 120 मील पर आवर पर चल रहा है और एक एक करके हम उसका डब्बा निकालते रहें, तो अकेला इंजन कितना स्पीड पर चलेगा?
भेजा निचोड़े जो सारे सवाल एक एक करके ढूंढ के निकाल, काहे न सुलझेंगे इनकी मजाल, नोच के दिखा दें बाल के विखाल। सवालों के बिना ही जिंदगी है डार्क, बल्ब की तरह जला दे क्वेश्चन मार्क, क्वेश्चन
इतना ऊंचाई और -35 डिग्री पर बादल बर्फ का ही नहीं बनता।
जब अंतर मन करे चीतकार, उत्सुकता हो सर पे सवार, क्वेश्चन से तू मत मान हार, चल भिड़ जा बरखुरदार। भले बुद्धि की मुट्ठी हो टाइट हो, रॉन्ग राइट में छिड़ी फाइट, हर प्रश्न के उत्तर पर है तेरा अधिकार अधिकार।
दरवाजों के पीछे और बिस्तर के नीचे लुक छिप के रहता है एक क्वेश्चन मार्क, मट्टी से उगता है, अंबर में दिखता है, पानी में बहता है एक क्वेश्चन मार्क। मेहनत करेंगे माथा फोड़ेंगे, इसकी अकड़ को लेकिन तोड़ेंगे।
अरे कलम मत उठाओ, थोड़ा मुस्कुराओ और मन में ही फॉर्मूला बनाओ।
अरे बच के जाने न पाए क्वेश्चन मार्क, हम बच के जाने न पाए क्वेश्चन मार्क, हम बच के जाने न पाए क्वेश्चन मार्क।
So as you saw, these kids didn't have the best of infrastructure. For some of us, I think we are living a blessed position to have the kind of infrastructure our schools have given or what you learners have. But yet they made the most of it. At the end, there was a scene in which through some broken parts and a toothbrush, these kids actually created a projector in which they could share a book from which they can all learn together. They had only one book, so it was hard, to learn. And that's why they created a projector from which all of them. So you don't need too many resources to achieve something. And usually less resources are enough to create a masterpiece. Coming to the more quantitative side of finance, the earlier was more lighter stories. One is the psychology of finance is more important than the math of finance. Money is more about behavior. True wealth is what you save and invest. Time and patience is the most important building blocks of finance. We will be taught in academia a lot of complex areas of finance, but actually there are also ways of simplifying so many parts of finance with respect to saving, investing, management of our finances, we will have to learn how to simplify and look through the complications. We probably have to learn both sides of the world, but what does not change is that there is a simple way of even looking at this area. So, as they say, most geniuses, especially those who lead others, prosper not by deconstructing intricate complexities, but by exploiting unrecognized simplicities. So, uh, my young learners, I think you would have understood the subject well if you can simplify it and teach it to others. I think that's some way a test of how much one has understood. The magic formula is actually quite simple. You earn your expenses, whatever minimum you have to do, will lead to the residual, which is a savings, and how you invest your savings. And this is the virtuous circle of finance, essentially of finance and investing. You have to maximize your earnings, minimize your expenses, invest wisely, give it time and patience, and that's the magic formula of investing. Again, wealth and wealth itself is a little complex subject. Wealth is a function of our income, consumption, and savings habit. The people who will break out into the right side are those which can invest their income and maximize their savings and invest their income into appreciating assets or investments which are yielding the highest return. And this has to be done over long periods to achieve the gratification, as we say. Your parents have probably done this. That's why you're able to afford and study at a good school like this. Compounding is the eighth wonder of the world, the least understood. And even if it's understood, it's a tad hard to practice. Again, I've already emphasized, so I will not invest more time, but little, and over 20 years, it becomes very, very large if you keep saving and investing from the earliest of years. Time is the magician behind this. Small video.
आजा आजा जिंद शामी आने के तले, आजा जरी वाले नीले आसमाने के तले। आजा आजा जिंद शामी आने के तले, आजा जरी वाले नीले आसमाने के तले।
So, the chess puzzle is probably hundreds of years old. The broad message is quite simple, that if you start from mere 1 rupee and you're able to double it in every square, you're already on the 8th square 128 times. And by the time you reach maybe the 16th square, you're 32,000 and more. By the time you reach the 32nd square, or the broad message is that there is not enough wealth in this world to compound 64 times, 64 doubles basically. And that's the power of compounding in some way. All valuable things in life are an outcome of compounding. So if you see your habits, health, values, investments, everything, reputation, relationships, over time compound. And up here, I would like to ask some of you the difference in this equation. So if you see 1.01 to the power of 365, which is number of days, becomes 37.8. And if you see 0.99, which is just zero 0.02 lesser, very minuscule, to the power of 365 becomes 0.03. Now the difference is 1000x and more. So that's also what even Atomic Habits was saying, that small efforts can compound over time. Good habits can compound over time. Same as with investing or finance. Small savings done over long periods can become a magical part. The same represented in different way, that the Lollapalooza, as we call it, basically all things coming together, all stars aligning, is a combination. Career or your financials are an outcome of multiple things coming together in life. You will never be able to pinpoint your success or your failure, for that matter, to one single event or one single building block. So you have to work on all areas to be able to get a wholesome life, which is also financially healthy. So life is a whole series of opportunity costs, and whatever you sacrifice will be rewarded to you in different ways in the future. And that's why there's something called a marshmallow test. You know, when young learners are subject to marshmallow or a chocolate test, uh, people who are able to delay the gratification, basically not take the chocolate today, but are ready to get rewarded in the future by giving up the today, tend to be more successful. So if you're studying today versus maybe playing video games or watching a movie, if you're training today rather than vacation, if you're saving today versus expensive, all these things accumulate and reward you multifold in the future.
I think one of my great advantages is that I have very low expectations. and I mean that. Most of the Stanford graduates have very high expectations. You deserve to have high expectations because you came from a great school. You were very successful. You're at the top of your class. Obviously, you were able to pay for tuition. And then you're graduating from one of the finest institutions on the planet. You're surrounded by other kids that are just incredible. You naturally have very high expectations. People with very high expectations have very low resilience. And unfortunately, resilience matters in success. I don't know how to teach it to you except for I hope suffering happens to you. And I was fortunate that I grew up with my parents providing a condition for us to be successful on the one hand, but there were plenty of opportunities for setbacks and suffering. And to this day, I use the phrase pain and suffering inside our company with great glee. And I mean that. Boy, this is going to cause a lot of pain and suffering. And I mean that in a happy way, because you want to refine the character of your company. You want greatness out of them. And greatness is not intelligence. Greatness comes from character, and character is informed out of smart people. It's formed out of people who suffered. And so if I could wish upon you, I don't know how to do it. For all of you Stanford students, I wish upon you ample doses of pain and suffering.
So this is relevant for you young learners who are growing up in such an amazing school, such amazing peer set. But as Jensen Huang, one of the greatest entrepreneurs of our time, is saying, and even Denzel Washington said sometime, that the worst thing you can do to your kids is take away their struggles. So, struggles not for the heck of it, not like access to a hygienic restroom, no, not that kind of a struggle. Some of that were our struggles when we were growing up, or the speed of the internet. Maybe that was the struggle of the past. The struggles of the future are going to be different. Having said that, what he said makes a lot of sense, that to build perseverance, to build resilience, you need to go through some struggles which become our legacy. So life is a journey, and Ikigai, it's aspirational destination. And health and finance are amongst the two most important building blocks. I'll tell you something about finance. Let's say somebody really loves photography. Now, you need to find a way to do photography, maybe full-time or maybe part-time. You can only afford it full-time if it's paying for you, if it's giving you a good life. And when I say you, it also must include your entire family. So these are difficult choices when all of you young learners are growing up, and you will have to make these choices. Like I explained, life is a function of the cards that we have been dealt by God. And within that, then the choices that we make. So this, the Ikigai framework might help you, that you need a balance of, you can't just say this is what you love and you don't care about anything else. And you can't even say, I will only work for money. So you need to find a balance between what you love, what gets paid, what is good for the world, what is good for you and your family. And that is the genesis of a balanced, fulfilling life. So finally, the equations for a lifetime, a little complex, but so character outlasts certificates. Integrity is what is non-negotiable. Gratitude plus right attitude will determine your altitude, right? Setbacks fuel strength. Adversity reveals your character. I think this Jensen Wong was alluding to that. Happiness is about achievements and aspirations and minimizing your regrets. To minimize your regrets, take the most amount of initiative. Speak what is there in your mind, either to your school, at your school, or to your parents, or to your friends. Do things which minimize your regrets. Life is too short to have regrets. Compounding is a force multiplier, like we discussed in so many slides. But compound not just your finances, but compound your relationships, your health, your learning, your character, all around, right? The right habits, choices lead to a fulfilling and a compounding life. I think Atomic Habits is one book that we all must imbibe. Anything into zero is zero. This is a very powerful equation, right? So be bold with reversible experiments. Basically, experiments which don't cost you a lot, be very bold with that. But be very careful with irreversible ones. For example, for certain adventure sports, I'm careful that my family does not participate or experience that. For some, I'm fine to take the risks. So I'm just giving that as an example. And finally, destruction in nature or in learning is swifter than creation. And I will show you a whole case study, a video around how creative destruction happens.
There is usually a long period of equilibrium where nothing seems to happen. And suddenly, everything changes.
Take transport. Horses were the main way of getting around for thousands of years. Carriages got better, and their use spread, but the transport system remained the same. At the dawn of the 20th century, a convergence occurred that opened a window of extraordinary new possibilities. Innovations in steel and rubber production, the pneumatic tire, the combustion engine, made possible an affordable and functioning car. But there were huge barriers. Early cars were expensive and unreliable. There were no paved roads, no supply chains or mechanics, no manufacturing capacity, and few oil wells or refineries. Few people knew how to drive. Outside a few enthusiasts tinkering in their workshops, no one recognized the possibilities, least of all the horse and carriage industry, which dismissed early cars as a rich person's toy. But as costs and capabilities improved rapidly, the niche expanded through a self-reinforcing cycle of increasing demand and economies of scale, cost reductions, increasing investment, and accelerating innovation. The invention of the moving production line in car finance made cars even more affordable. The horse and carriage industry could not compete. Their deep expertise in the old system, their inability to see beyond their narrow lens, was their greatest liability. It's why disruptors always come from outside the incumbency. By the time the establishment realized what was happening, it was too late. The S-curve had overtaken them. Within 20 years, they were destroyed by a death spiral of dwindling demand, escalating costs, plummeting investment, and reversing economies of scale. Cars could go faster, further, carry more load, and created new market opportunities far beyond the niche of the horse. Cascading impacts were unleashed that changed everything. The transport industry was transformed, but so too were agriculture, retail, and mining, where we lived and worked, the structure of our cities. Cars transformed war, health, geopolitics, and the environment. They created previously unthinkable possibilities, both good and bad. This is our secret, a lens that reveals what goes on beneath the surface, where the complex forces that drive the patterns of change play out. Predicting the future based on past trends can help in times of stability. But in periods of rapid change, it can lead to big mistakes. That's because disruption isn't a straight line. It comes with rapid change and sweeping, far-reaching consequences that can transform entire industries in a handful of years. Who would have thought the smartphone could disrupt the oil industry? But that's what's so fascinating about disruption. It's not limited to technology, but has the power to change society at large.
There is usually...
So, young learners, the reason why I'm showing you this is because the coming technology of artificial intelligence is going to be probably a degree and many times over than what we have ever seen in the past, much bigger than the Industrial Revolution or any other technology. It would require you to be adaptable, agile, be really, really smart at your work, learn from your smartest peers, and not underestimate how things can connect. What did the video show? That the invention of rubber, tire, steel, combustion, the processes and the technologies around it led to creation of the transport, the automobile technology, which replaced the horses that were then used for transportation for hundreds and thousands of years. It took only 15-20 years for the entire horse-driven transportation system to die and automobiles to take over. Something similar is going to happen in the next 10-15 years when you all are growing up. The way AI is going to take over a lot of spheres, careers, it's important that you all be abreast of all possible changes. To summarize, I think we discussed a few books and a few movies and thought they are a good way to learn. Some of the books, Lemonade War, Psychology of Money, Atomic Habits, How to Get Lucky, were discussed, but there were two other books that I must mention. How to Live an Extraordinary Life. It's about a father writing 66 letters to his children about how to live and how to lead an extraordinary life. Very interesting. And the other being Echoes of Being Understood, Inner Voice of Heart, which explains how to interpret relationships and the equations within beautifully. Movies, we discussed some clips, some of them, but you must see, for example, Coach Carter, which talks about choosing gaming versus education and finances, right? A very, very high impactful movie. So to sum it all, you are what your deepest desire is. As is your desire, so is your will. As is your will, so is your deed. As is your deed, so is your destiny. So your destiny is in your hands. And thank you so much for this session. To say the least, I hope it wasn't boring because of some of the clips. Thank you so much, learners.